Welcome to another edition of Politics and Right. My name is Egberto Willies. Today we're honored to have attorney Paul Kiesel. Paul Kiesel is Speak Up for Justice founder and a national recognized trial attorney based in Los Angeles, whose practice focuses on personal injury, class action, environmental, and taxes tort litigation. He has been named one of California's 100 most influential attorneys by the Daily Journal, one of the top 50 trial lawyers by the Los Angeles Business Journal, and among the top 500 lawyers in the United States by Law Dragon. Welcome to Politics Done Right, Senor Paul Kiesel. How are you doing today?
You know what? I'm honored to join you this afternoon and have this conversation. I'm glad that you cut that introduction just a little bit short. It can take a long time for that, so thank you.
Well, you are a renowned kind of a guy with a very long history, but what I did is I chopped what I got from the top. And I think being named the top of all those things is great. But look, let's sort of get busy. I want to start with the Supreme Court. I mean, we're going to talk about the issues with California in a minute, but I want to start with the Supreme Court. Recently, the Supreme Court has given the president being a law neophyte, what seems to me to be a blanket check to do as he pleases while in office with the immunity decision that they made. Do I have that right, or are there some limitations to it?
Well, look, there's certainly going to be limitations to it. I think that the Supreme Court, in part rightly, acknowledged that the commander-in-chief and the elected leader of this country has a fair amount of discretion in terms of what he or she does in that position. Is it unfettered? Is it without limitation? Absolutely not. Have we hit that moment in time yet? I'm not sure. Perhaps when we talk about California and what the president did to our National Guard, he may have hit the wall in terms of what authority he has to issue executive orders, or in fact, orders from the president's office that get executed on. I think the Supreme Court, to be clear, has given the president a lot of flexibility, but it's not without limits, in my view.
Now, this country is over 200 and odd years in existence, and something of this sort has never come up. Why? What makes this administration so novel that it needed something of this sort?
Well, I don't think that it's the novelty of this administration that gives them the immunity that the Supreme Court suggests the president of the United States has, regardless of the party that president is coming from. What's unique about this particular president is he is stretching his authority and pushing this country in a way no other president in our nation's history has ever done. Look, Speak Up for Justice, which is the organization I put together, is just to do this. We as a community, as citizens, need to recognize that the law is our best guardrail in this nation for its democracy. And when the law becomes flexible, when presidents are free to ignore decisions of courts, this nation as a democracy is really very fragile and extremely at great risk of collapse as a democracy when the rule of law ends. And Speak Up for Justice, to go on for just a bit, judges can't speak for themselves. When Judge Boasberg issues his decision and Trump calls for his impeachment, and members of Congress ask to impeach a federal judge because they don't like his decision, that's not how business is done in this country. There's appellate courts. There's a process you go through. Just because you don't like a judge's decision, you don't remove that judge from office, or worse, threaten the life of that judge.
We used to believe that a government made up of three independent but co-equal governmental bodies, if you will, the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive, protected us from that sort of what I call tyranny. But it seems to me like maybe we have erred in believing that there's some protection there, and just maybe it's not.
Well, here's the thing. There's never been a time that I'm aware of, certainly not in my 65 years of life, where a sitting president has ignored the decision of a court. We're a nation where historically the president may not have agreed with the decision that was reached. The community, the public might not have agreed with the decision that was reached by the Supreme Court, but we followed the rule of law anyway. We're at a flex point right now where if in fact the decision is to ignore what the court has done, we use the word, it's a constitutional crisis. Really, it's a deconstruction of democracy when that third branch of government is ignored and you have a legislative branch that appears to be unwilling to stand up for itself and assert what its rights are.
I used to tell my audience a long time ago, again, like I said, I'm no law scholar, but I sure know how to read the Constitution. And I once told my audience that the way I see it is that the judiciary is the most powerful segment of the three branches, simply because they could deem anything unconstitutional. The one thing I had never believed would have happened is that we would have had a legislative branch that ceded just about all of its power to executive, and at that point makes the court seem almost impotent. Your thoughts?
Well, here's the point. If in fact the legislative branch chooses to disregard its responsibility, to be a check and balance, to be a guardrail, if the legislative branch falls aside, the only protection we have is on the cliff side of the roadway. If you go off that side, you're dead. So The guardrail that we have right now is just on the side of the cliff. And if they go through that guardrail, which is the court system, there's not much hope for us.
What I tell people is that ultimately it is now we, the people, and we have to make the we, the people of the Constitution stand for what it really stands for, we, the people.
I couldn't agree with you more. That in fact, that's really the impetus behind or I should say, speak up for justice, because it's the community, it's the lawyers in part, but it's all of us. It's I know there's going to be a No Kings rally this weekend to see how many thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people that come out to show their support for our democracy by saying no kings in this country. That's not what we signed up for.
All right, let's get into California now. California, the president, I think it's really two issues. One, having taken away the power from the governor to go ahead and empower the militarize or empower the guard, the National Guard, but most importantly, to commission 700 Marines, active Marines, to go into LA. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are pretty simple. Number one, obviously, Judge Breyer, who is the younger brother of Stephen Breyer,
Supreme Court,
Supreme Court justice who just retired. You couldn't hope for a better judicial officer. He's got 23 years of experience. He's brilliant. And to be clear, whatever his decision is, we're going to abide by. If he says the president has the authority, someone can appeal it and it'll go up the chain to see what happens, but we'll accept it. I hope and pray that if his decision is, you know what, the president did not have authority under Title 10, Section 12406 to do this, that the administration will say, okay, if the order is to pull back the Marines and to stand down with the National Guard, I only hope and pray our executive branch acknowledges that decision. They can appeal it, but that in the meantime, they do what the court instructs them to do, which is your point. A federal judge, if you ask me what the most powerful position is in America, I always said it was to be a district court federal judge, because one single federal judge can declare something unconstitutional, and that is blanket across the United States until it goes to a higher court. That can happen quickly. But the fact is, a single federal judge, one side or the other, makes a decision, and that is the rule of the land right now. That is an important, powerful position to have.
Now, the question is, though, would he stay the order if he went ahead and made the decision?
Great question. I think if he wanted to avoid a constitutional crisis, which would happen if he said, I want you to immediately withdraw the troops today, give that order, that he could do that. But he could also say, you know what, I'm going to grant the injunction. I'm going to order that the troops be returned, but I'm going to stay my order for 14 days to give you a chance to go to the Ninth Circuit and hear what the Ninth Circuit has to say. That would be a very cautious way to approach it. It wouldn't really get the military off the streets at the moment, but it would be a cautious way to approach it.
But there are times when that cautious approach causes damage, right? Because while we're waiting for that decision, these guys are on the road. These guys are active. I mean, there are reasons for judges to stay something. I mean, you stay something if not staying it wouldn't create massive problems in doing so. And what we are saying is that if this isn't stayed immediately, these people could harm quite a few of our American citizens.
For example, Abrego Garcia.
Exactly.
Before his plane left the ground, the judge issued an order: do not deport this individual, and yet they ignored that and sent him to El Salvador. Okay, that would be a time for an injunction to issue immediately and no stay. Just get it ordered and stop it. Okay, I agree with you. And there's certainly an immediate concern about having the military on the streets of Los Angeles, where you don't need them. We have a pretty effective police force. We have the sheriff's department. We have agreements with forces all around Southern California that can help where our own force can't do it. We have enough authority on the streets that we do not need the military present in our streets. So I do think he could issue the injunction and require it to happen immediately, and it would scale back the protests that are happening in this city right now.
As Andrew Jackson said, the Supreme Court can say as it please, but make me follow the rules. Isn't there an error in the Constitution or a problem with the Constitution when it doesn't give more power to everybody else? In other words, if the judge tells that says that the president is doing something wrong and he refuses to have to complete that order, shouldn't there really be yet another some other part that says, okay, we're going to arrest the president for not following an order?
These are issues, as you started our conversation, we've never confronted before as a nation, right? We run the risk of being a dictatorship.
Right.
If we look, the program I'm going to be doing on June 26th for Speak Up for Justice, I'm going to have a remarkable group of federal judges, one from Venezuela, where the law fell apart. The constitutional system in Venezuela, when Hugo Chavez was elected, disappeared. And so I'm having a federal judge who's living in the United States under asylum because the system fell apart in Venezuela. I'm going to have a judge from Poland, federal judge who's a sitting judge in Poland. Poland came very close in the year 2020 from losing its legal system when they took over. I'm going to have a judge from South Africa talking about these issues of international rules of law and how the United States has been a leading light, a lighthouse that other nations have followed. We lose that opportunity if we move away from the rule of law we've had for nearly 250 years.
Paul, look, I want to thank you, but first of all, I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everybody, and that is, please tell me what you would have liked me to ask that I didn't ask, and give us a closer that you'd like to close with.
Funny, when I'm trying a lawsuit and I've got a witness on the witness stand, or a juror, I'm looking to choose a juror for a trial, I always say, what you just asked me, what didn't I ask you that you should tell me that I should know? And I would say this. The fact that you've got folks engaged here is so critical. Every single one of your viewers, of your listeners, need to be involved, because this has to be an American effort. American people need to stand up. This is a democracy. It only works if we get engaged. Speak Up for Justice about being engaged in the process. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for all the people that are engaged in this Constitution for us.
Paul Kiesel, founder of Speak Up for Justice, among many other things he's known for. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.